All right. So just like we just kind of finished up a whiteboarding example, um, it's really important to plan out what you're going to do before you write any code or HTML or CSS. So what I'm going to do is, has anybody heard of wireframing before? No? All right. So wireframing is exactly like whiteboarding from like an algorithm, like doing a coding challenge, but wireframing is literally just building out, like literally drawing out the layout of your web page. So I'm going to open up, there's plenty of different software out there for whiteboarding, or I'm sorry, wireframing. You can literally use Google Docs. You can literally use some computer paper and a pen and pencil or a marker, but there is specific like software, wireframing software that like will help you. Like Balsamic is really popular. Yeah, but what I'm going to do is essentially wireframe as much of Hacker News as I can. Let's right here, open that up. So Limnu is just a whiteboard where you can like draw on it, but it's really easy to use. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw like what the screen, like the web page, something like that. And then pretty much every box I draw is an HTML element, whether it's a div, a button. We can get into more specifics and more detail, but pretty much right now, I'm just going to draw all the different HTML elements represented by boxes on the screen. So for the nav bar up here, I'm just going to create. So I noticed that Hacker News there's some like margin or padding over there here. I can inspect it and see how they're actually doing it, but I want to do this from scratch. I'm going to try to learn on how to build this out from scratch. I don't want to copy them unless I get really stuck, and maybe then I'll look at inspect the web page. All right, so up here, I'm just going to draw. Here is like the nav bar. That's going to be this whole thing that's in orange. And then I noticed like, all right, we have like an image. We have Hacker News. It looks like it's a title. It's bigger. It's bold. And then we have these other links that are separated by these little pipes. And then over here on the right side, we have separate login. So I'm going to try to group things that are similar together. So I guess I can say like, all right, this whole section is probably encapsulated in a single div, maybe. But we can always adjust if needed when I'm actually doing the layout. So I'm just gonna, all right, so we have an image and a title or header and what, 6 links, 7 links. So I can say, all right, this is one big group. And it's not to scale. So this one box within the nav bar encapsulates all of this information right here. So then I can say, all right, I have an image tag, I have a title tag, or not title tag, but like a title and a bunch of links. So I think there's like 7 links. I'm just going to draw it like super quickly because speed's the name of the game here. I'm just trying to, I don't know, something like that. And then all the way over here, I have that login button, and that's a separate link. I don't think I'll need a div around that. It can just be a login link. It could be a button. It's just another HTML element. All right. And then I have all of these. I can get into the weeds there. So that's another big element. Everything is in gray. I'm going to say that's one big element. And then each one of these is its own div. It looks like I can make it a list. So that's probably one big ordered list. And then here's a single list item. And then we have Amazon. So that's one. So maybe in this entire thing is one div. I can do that. And then this other thing is a div. So I can say like, all right, there's one div for like the title, and here's another div for all the lore items. And then inside of there, I can create a div for the title and the link as well. So title and the link. And then down here would be what, 3 separate or 4 separate divs, something like that. But I think that kind of gives you like an example of what wireframing is. What questions do you have about wireframing?
So when in doubt, div it out.
Yep, it's all about the divs. All about the divs.
So when you're creating the boxes, is there like, rather than just thinking thought process wise, you make one big box to encapsulate everything, and then you have 2 separate boxes. Is there anything against like with the large div, pretty much the largest div that you have inside the box, to having that include the header as well? Like make the div for the header inside a separate box and do it like kind of like nesting doll-ish, or because the header is so different, you want it completely like separate?
Are you talking about in reference to like this part?
Yeah, so instead of like you did like box and then 2 boxes inside the box, or like box inside box inside box, like I don't know if that would work or not.
I'm not quite sure. What the hell? So
make like a second box that's like encapsulating the outside of all of that, and then
so create a second box outside of all of this.
no. So basically covering up the header and the body.
The header and the body. Are you referring to, when you say header and body, what elements are you talking about on the screen?
The Hacker News top heading, and then all the ordered lists.
Oh, so have that be a separate?
Yeah.
So like something like that? Like so?
No.
Oh.
Never mind. I think it's just a different way to do it. I don't know if it necessarily makes a difference.
Yeah, and again, there isn't necessarily like, I think Hacker News used like ordered lists for all this. But again, you can utilize different methods or different HTML elements to get what you want, essentially to get the same thing. So there is a way probably to make this display one way, and probably another way, like another different HTML boxes in another way, or element boxes in another way, to make it show up essentially the same.
So does the wireframe not include text or images?
It just depends on how detailed you want to get. Like in here, I can then go and add text, be like, all right, this is a div, this is a div, this is an image tag, this is going to be an H1 tag, and all these are going to be A tags because they're links, and this one's going to be a link, or so it'll be an A tag. And then so you can go ahead and add text to say specifically what HTML element each div represents, or each box represents.
I've got a question, Tom.
Yep.
This is just basically just showing like the actual like components of how it's designed, and then as you're working through the wireframes and the layouts, then you kind of walk through how it interacts with people, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So here's like one wireframe, but then, for example, if I click like login and it takes me somewhere, there'd be another wireframe that displays whatever the next step would be.
Cool. So it's strictly just like, hey, this is the layout of it. This is what it does. Like, this is just the main components of the page.
Yep. All right.
Tom, I have a question.
Yep.
So why do we continue perpetuating pretty websites when Hacker News is pretty much a standard for certain things? I know it has a purpose, but why?
Who's perpetuating pretty websites?
Well, people want pretty websites. They're like, hey, if it's pretty, that means you know what you're doing. But Hacker News does the job well.
Yeah. I mean, look at Craigslist. So like at the end of the day, it all depends on how well your product is. And essentially your web page or whatever is literally only there to describe and sell something, to inform your customer or whoever is visiting your web page what your product is, what your company does, etc. So whatever method of design you want to employ to do that, that's totally fine. So there isn't, I don't think there's like a right or wrong way, what's good design, what's bad design, as far as like from an appeal standpoint, from what's visually appealing. But generally speaking, if you go to go to Hacker News versus like Airbnb, just for example, like this is interesting. Like it looks pretty cool. Actually, it's okay. But like relative to like Hacker News or Craigslist, I'm sure most people would say this is probably a little more visually like interesting, I guess. Not necessarily better, but yeah. And design
Just
is
bells and whistles.
I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I
No,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to say, I feel like there's just bells and whistles on those commercial sites just for marketing. That's pretty much like where front end's kind of geared to. I kind of feel like anyway.
Yeah, and design is constantly changing. Like what's the standard, what's new, in like what is like, yeah, what's new. So like this, like Hacker News and like Craigslist, there isn't any design really to it. So it like can't really go out of style because it's just like basic it looks like H1 tags and links and all that. Whereas you can, when you look at what certain websites, like you can see what websites use Bootstrap, because Bootstrap was like an older design pattern versus like new Material UI and all kinds of stuff. But I think it's all subjective. But yeah, let's start building out some Hacker News. So list. So I'm going to code this, open up. It's going to open up into a new VS Code window. It's somewhere. Crap, where is it? All right. There is a VS Code window open somewhere on my machine. Oh, there it is. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'll zoom in and create two files, touch index.html and touch styles.css. In naming your index, your main file, HTML file, index.html is standard. Likewise with styles. But if you're utilizing a web page with multiple HTML pages, generally you'll describe what HTML, you'll name your HTML file like what page it is. So like login.html, etc. All right. So HTML, I think Ankur said there's some snippets that can create the skeleton of an HTML file. So if I type in HTML, I think I have this HTML5 boilerplate that creates the skeleton of an HTML file. So the main components of an HTML file are the head and body. So the head, you can just think of like a person. The head consists of all kind of like the logic, things that are things the application needs. So if you're importing style sheets, JavaScript, using some external framework that links to it, will always generally be inside the head. And then everything you see on the screen is within the body. And they also have the script tag. Script tags can go anywhere within anywhere within the body or the head. I try to generally just keep everything within the head, just because that's just kind of what I do. All right. So Hacker News. The first thing I'm going to do is just going to bring this over here and kind of architect this. So I can go back and forth. All right. So the first thing it looks like I did, I had a div that encapsulates the nav bar. So there's that. And then I looked like I had a div, two separate divs that encapsulates all the buttons and links on the left side and another one on the right side. So I could say div, everything in there. And then here, I guess this wouldn't be a div. This would be like an A tag or something. Just let's keep that login. Then in here, I guess I had an image for the Hacker News. And don't worry, I'll fill out everything else. I'm going to create a div, or I guess these would all be links. Again, I'll do Hacker News. And I can't remember, is it news, past comments, news? And feel free to follow along, past comments. Is it show, ask, show, and then jobs and submit. All right. Oh, let's go ahead and open this up. Open index.html. All right. Okay, we have something. It looks like login is on the wrong level, but we'll fix that. It looks like the image tag. So image tag will take in a source to an image. And luckily, I have a copy of the image right there. So in order to link to that image, it already looks at whatever level I'm currently on and sees if there's an image there. It looks like it's Y Combinator. What else do I need for the source? Do I need an alt tag? Logo. Now if I refresh, whoa, that is very large. All right. So next thing I'm going to do is add all the href to this. Href. What is href? What is this supposed to do?
You pointed out something, either like a link or another location in the document.
Yep. So I can literally go to like HTTPS Google.com or something like that. And that link should, if I refresh that and click that, it can take me to google.com. All right, let's actually start naming these. So this entire parent div encapsulates the entire nav bar. So I'm going to actually just call it, give it a class as like nav bar. And this one down here, I'll actually make this an ID, and this will be like nav link group because it has all like the nav links. And I think, and I'll also make this a class because name this nav link, and I'll actually name all these nav links as well. Give it a class of nav link. So what's the difference between an ID and a class?
ID is more specific.
Yep, an ID, you shouldn't name any other HTML element, should have that ID name. Or classes, think of a class of students. There'll be multiple students within a class. So I can use navlink in multiple areas. All right, let's see. All right, now if I refresh that, probably shouldn't change anything. Great. So let's open styles, our CSS. I'm going to split the screen. And let's first target the nav link. So is the nav or the nav bar. I can't remember. Do I need to use a dot or a hash, or can I just do like nav bar?
Dot would be for classes.
Dot would be for classes. All right.
Hash
Nav
is
bar.
ID.
All right, great. So nav bar, I'm gonna do, let's see, I'm gonna do border, none, background color, because let's see, like, so the entire background color is like this orange color, RGB. I think it's like 255, 91. I have it here. There we go. So if I refresh, come over here and refresh that. Still not working. Crap. Why isn't my styles working?
Did you import it?
Yep. All right. So I want to link the styles.css to my HTML file by href inside the link tag, relationship style sheets, href, the location of where my style sheet is located at. All right.
Is style sheet the rel equals style sheet? Is that a keyword?
Yes, I believe it is. So if I got rid of that, I think it should still work. Actually, I'm not. No, it actually doesn't. So you need that style sheet relation in there for that to work. And you can import multiple style sheets in here. So you can have another style sheet that is like another file as well. But just know that the style sheet that comes after, so if this was like some other styles, these styles, if you named, if I had nav bar in this style sheet as well, these styles would take precedence over the styles in this style sheet. So just be aware of where you're importing your style sheets at. All right, cool. Oh, wow. All right, so I've got the background color. All right, let's see, I'm gonna actually also make an ID for the image as logo. I'm gonna do hashtag logo, because my logo, I want to have a height of, let's say, 18 pixels, a width of 18 pixels, and let's look at that. All right, that looks a lot better, but we're still not on the same line, and we've got these link styles that I don't want to have in there. What else do I need? Let's see. All right, looks like this logo also needs a border around it. So I can say border 1 pixel. It's gonna be a solid border, and I'm just gonna make it white. And also hash for white. Whoop, I think it's 0. That's black. FFF is white. All right, cool. We're making progress. All right, let's see what else we need. All right. I actually want these to be on the same level as well. How can I get login on this same level? Does anybody know?
I think if you put it as inline. Oh, sorry.
I heard what's that?
Go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say you could do bootstrap if you put all those items in a container, then change the display to flex.
So I can create the container as display of flex. So the container of all these elements is this nav bar. So that's the parent container. So I can make it flex. Is that what you said?
Yes, and then you could start using, I believe it's align items to where you could do like flex in, and that should at least throw the login to the right.
All right, cool. So I'll do display flex and let's see what that does. All right, awesome. Whoa. All right, so that's kind of weird that it kind of showed up there like so.
So then for the container for login, you're going to want to use align item, I believe is what.
Align items. And so align items. So I can do
It
flex
should
in.
be flex in. Yeah.
All right, let's look at that. All right, sweet. So it's on the same line, but now login is still over here, but maybe I want those to be spread apart. I'm actually not familiar with Flexbox. So Flexbox, CSS or display flex. And we'll cover this as a little more in depth a little bit later. So we've got display flex, container, flex row. All right, cool. We can space these separately. So it looks like space between, space around, space evenly. So justify content. I can go, I'm going to justify content, space between. All right, let's look at that. So if I refresh that, sweet, I've got login over here and I've got everything else over here. That's nice. All right. But it looks like I want some padding or margin around this, and I want these also center aligned, or try to get them at least center aligned. Let's see. How can I go about doing that? Can I make?
Could you maybe explain the difference between padding and margin?
Yep.
Kind of having
Yeah.
a tough time distinguishing between the two.
Sweet. Yeah. So I'm going to open up. I did Command Option I. It opened up the dev tools. And if I click on elements, I can click this little select an element on the page to inspect it. So I can inspect an element. And if I click on the image logo, it's going to bring up, should bring up. Yeah. So there's the box model. So every element, every HTML element has, think of it, it has a box around it. And I can inspect that box. So 18 by 18, that's the size of the content within the actual element. So that's the actual size of this image. You can tell that because I've got a max height or height and width of 18. So then right outside of that, there's padding. So right here, it doesn't have any padding. And then what's next is the border. So if I want some space in between the border and whatever content of the element, that is considered the padding. And then outside of the border, if I want stuff to like be away from the border, that's my margin. So so padding, there's no padding, margin, or I'm sorry, the border. If you look at my HTML or my CSS, my border is 1 pixel. And you can see right here, the border is 1 pixel all the way around. And the margin, there is no margin. So padding is the closest, the space closest to the element, the actual content of the div or of the element. And margin is what's furthest away. And in between that is the border. And you can change that by coming into here. And if I wanted to increase the height and maybe add some padding of like 5 pixels and margin of 5 pixels, or let's say 10 pixels, not 510 pixels. So now if I inspect this element, so it's kind of highlighting also on the screen of what I'm like hovering over it within the box model. So 18 by 22, if I click up, hover over padding, I've got a padding of 5 pixels. I have a border of 1 pixel and a margin of 10 pixels. What other questions do you have about that?
For it to
None.
get on the left, it's just going there defaultly.
I'm sorry?
How does it know to be on the left? Are we telling it to be on the left side of that box, or is it just defaulting to being on the left?
Are you talking about right here?
Yeah, the Y in reference to the overall orange box.
The Y and oh yeah, so
Yeah, the logo.
the logo. So over here, I've got inside of essentially the parent div, which is this nav bar. And the first element within the nav link group is my image. So that's always going to be the first element on the left. And because I'm using Flexbox and doing space between, whatever's the most farthest element to the left is going to be all the way to the left, or whatever the first element right here is going to be the furthest to the left. So if I hover over, so like right here, you can see like the nav link group, the div. Oh, it's actually, can I even zoom in? Oh, it's not working. Whoop. That div nav link group with an ID, that's on the left-hand side because I'm using Flexbox and I'm saying keep the two child divs as far away from each other as possible. All right. So let's refresh that. So it looks like I need some padding or margin maybe. Let's see what we got. So I want it to be all the way around. Where should I add the padding at? Should I add it at the nav bar level?
Yeah, you add them with the A tags.
Or I can add them with the A tags. I'm just gonna add it because I want padding all the way around the entire thing. So I want 2 pixels. So if I do that and refresh that's a little bit better. Looks like there's too much stuff right there. I wonder why that is. Is that because that link tag? Anyway, we'll fix that. It's looking a little bit better. All right. Next, let's deal with these links, these nav links. Nav link. I'm going to do margin top. Well, first let's text decoration. So I don't want it to have these like, I don't want it to be default orange, or I don't want these underscores, the underlined. So I'm going to do text decoration none. All right, I got rid of those, but it looks like it's still purple because it's a link. So I'm going to just say color black. And I think the font size is 13 pixels or something like that. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
So I know there's a nav tag. How would that, like, what would that do differently compared to just like doing it the way that you were doing it?
Nothing. So I can make this a nav. And instead of doing nav bar up here in my styles, I can just target the nav. And if I refresh it, everything should be the same.
Okay, so it's only an organizational difference rather
Yeah.
than a functionality. Okay.
Yeah. But maybe somewhere in my application, it has some other nav bar or something like that. So I wanted to target like this specific nav bar, but anyway. All right. Oh, it looks like, what are these font sizes? I actually don't know. So let's inspect. So you can actually inspect the website. So looks like does it even have a font size?
It says it's 10, but the body CSS might have like 0.16 times, or where it multiplies it by 1.6.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna leave it as is right here. But it looks also like Hacker News is bigger. So maybe, how can I do that? How can I just target Hacker News?
You do an inline code.
I can do inline code. It's best practice to stay away from inline code. Just an FYI, you'll rarely ever do inline code.
Make an personal ID for it.
I can make an ID. Yep, I can definitely say like ID title. Yeah, might as well do that.
Isn't there a way to access the first item in that that div ID?
Okay. Yep. So maybe I can do what is it? Navlink group. Navlink group. So I'm targeting, or let's actually just do this. I'm going to do a dot what is it? First child or first type of. So I'm saying, hey, the very first type of the A link. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to do font. I'm going to do font weight. Font weight makes things bold. You can literally type in bold, or you can use a number. So 900, I believe, is bold, but I can also just write bold. So if I do that and refresh it, awesome. So look at Hacker News is bold now, but it also looks like login is bold. So,
Hey, Tom.
Yep.
Can you have multiple classes attached to a single HTML piece of code?
So yeah, you can definitely do that. So if I wanted something, if I wanted to attach another class to here, so like another class, I can definitely do that as well. So you can have as many classes as you want, and that's very common. So it looks like I've targeted the first element here, but I'm also targeting the first A tag here. So first child, so first type of. Is there another way I can do it?
Couldn't you just set an ID for that first, for the Hacker News
Yeah,
A tag, and then just target that?
I could do that as well. So I can just say hashtag title, font weight bold. Now login is back, but now Hacker News is bold, and maybe I'm going to make that a font size of 18. I don't know. And you can use other measurements, like instead of 18, you can use like rem or relative stuff. So I can also do like 1.5 rem. I think it's going to be pretty big. Yeah. But
What does REM stand for?
relative something. Yeah, I actually don't know off the top of my head. It's a good question though.
So for rem, it's just grabbing the root font size. So I think the body defaults to 16. So when you do 1.5, then it's multiplying it by 16 or whatever you set it at.
Okay. Nice. So it's looking okay. I'm not quite sure about how to center those. I'm just gonna get rid of the flex end. Still didn't change anything. Let's see.
Seems the login went up.
Yeah, the login went up. This went down. I think this one went down because it's using the height of the logo. So maybe I should separate out the logo. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to separate out the logo to something like that. But now that might mess up my spacing, because let's see what happens now. My spacing. Now it's centered that. Okay. Now what can I do? But it looks like it's center now. That looks a lot better. You know what? I'm not going to use Flexbox. I'm going to use something called, that you all probably learned yesterday, called Grid, I believe. So instead of display flex, I'm going to do display grid. And grid, literally, you create a grid of your web page. So I want to make a grid of a single row with 3 columns. So I'm going to do grid, and we'll cover this more in depth, grid template columns. And here I'm just going to list how many columns I want based off of how wide I want each column. So 30 pixels, auto, 50 pixels. So the first column is going to be 30 pixels wide. The second column is going to be auto. So it's going to like automatically fluctuate the width based on the other inputs. And the last one is going to be like where login is, it's going to be 50 pixels. So if I refresh that, it's a little bit better. Looks like a login is still up there. I wonder if I can do that. I don't know if that's still going to work. All right. All right, cool. Starting to get better. I don't know if I want that actually. Because that looks a little more center, but that one looks up high for some reason. So maybe I can target that. But we'll see. I'm going to add some pipes to each one of those. So outside of the A tag, I'm just going to add pipes. I don't think I need one there. Oh, that looks ugly. So I'm going to add spaces. All right, it's starting to look, except it's still not center. Wondering if there's a way I can align it center. Let's see. So I'm gonna come in here. This is really slow. Nav link group. Display. Does anybody know how I can possibly make this?
You could put a border around each of the A tags to kind of see what the area is and then start centering it from there by doing padding top and bottom.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So nav link. So it looks like, yeah. So I'm gonna do that, but there should be a way I can center it. CSS grid, center vertically. I think there's something. There's gotta be something. Inline grid, grid gap, nope. Justify item, center. Align item, center. Would be nav link group. I'm just looking here. Align items. Right there, maybe. Center. Maybe that's it. Oh, it's taking forever. That didn't do it. Display inline grid.
You have a floating A. I don't know if in your style.
Oh,
I don't know if that messes it up or not.
yeah, probably did. Nope, So, where is it? Grid. There was another one, wasn't there? Line item center. Maybe the justify, inline grid. There. Could also just be where like the pipes are. Justify items. Oh, that's grid. Now I'm just messing around. Oh, so that's centers it horizontally. All right. I think it's just because of the pipes. And now I can probably go to each one of these and add padding, as Alexander said. So nav link, padding bottom, 2 pixels. Why not? See what that does. Didn't do anything. What if I did 8 pixels? Oh, it looks like it's doing stuff. We can keep going. Where are we at? 45 already. All right, I'm gonna button this up real quick. So one thing I need to do is align that somehow. I'm gonna actually get the hell out of here. Ooh. The overall body of the entire thing, max width, I'm going to make it 85% of the entire page to give. So we got that. I can also like center that maybe. I'm going to do font family. I'm going to go as Ferdinand in here. Do that. All right, that's looking okay. So that's starting to look better with the font update. Margin left. There's a better way to do this. I'm sure to get that centered. But that's about right. That it looks like probably can be aligned to the right a little bit more. Oh, so is that the login? Nav link. This is where I'm going to add a login class as well. I can also make an ID there. Text align right. If I refresh that, there we go. Maybe I can add. It's okay. So yeah, I think that's good for right now. What questions do you have? Again, a lot of it's just trial and error. That's why I said before, you can go down the CSS rabbit hole.
Very easily.
Flushing out like the same design like takes a long time in experimentation. It's super finicky.
Yep.
You just scroll up to the top in your CSS.
Yep. I probably might want to make this a div, encapsulate the whole, like the entire web page in a div. No, that doesn't make sense. I can do, yeah, but yeah. All right.
Now, how far does the like the preloaded classes go? Because like, could you like using this, there's basically 3 boxes. You want it all center aligned. It seems very finicky, but would you be able to do something that can like carry on to the next one to make it all like to make a header similar like that more easy to do? Or is it more just play with it to make a specific site work better?
So what are you asking? If
Like, so basically with this design here, you have 3 boxes, one with the logo, one with the Hacker News and all those links and
Yep.
the login. Could you make some kind of preset that, you know, like, okay, that you're going to be working with that kind of setup a lot. And then so you just have like kind of the skeleton, I think what was a bootstrap or something that was preloaded to take care of that? Or
I mean, you can if you're like recreating websites with like the same design layout, you can definitely do that. But the likelihood that you'll be creating websites with the same layout every single time with the same number of links and just overall the same design,
yeah,
it's pretty rare. All right.